It was the best part of the day, mid-morning, a time when the early hustle had quieted, leaving behind a cool, silent stillness. The air would be fragrant with the smells of breakfast just before they began to fade, and just as the scents of bread and stews started to mingle. Being able to sleep comfortably into and preferably through this part of the day was one of life's great joys, and today I should have experienced that joy. But there were no smells, nothing lingered from breakfast, nothing was building for the evening meals. Instead, the silence was demolished by the angry, demanding shrieks of alarm bells, tearing through the air and rending the usual stillness with brash, desperate calls for aid. These bells once signaled my duty to rush out and manage emergencies as part of the militia. Now, having been dismissed for failing to meet some standard or regulation, or some other reason I could not be bothered to remember, I did not even have to think about them. I could simply go about my day, leaving the urgent tasks to someone far better suited than myself. So now, on the few occasions the bells rang, I ignored them. Most days, I would just drift off to a different area of town, turning the bell's scream into a whisper. Today was different. Today, I had a bed. I was not going to let some stupid alarm bells chase me out of it. My good friend Serge had asked me to watch his place while he handled an issue in the mines, and I could use his bed while he was gone. He even promised to pay me for my time. Probably a few copper, but he had been gone for a couple of days, so it might even be a whole silver. More importantly, I would be back on the street when he got back, so I wanted to enjoy the bed as much as I could. I was reaching my limit, though. I had slept as much as I could and had been lying awake since the first alarm bells rang. It did not help that Serge's place was so close to the bell tower. Even though I had slept so long that I physically could not sleep anymore, getting up was exhausting. I managed to do it with much effort and dragged myself to the polished tin Serge had strapped to his wall. I looked better than I did a few days ago when I first showed up here to start my watch. My skin was so pale it was almost blue, not the gray it was now. The bags were not so thick under my eyes. The bruise on my cheek had gone down. My horns and hair had a bit more luster to them. The deep scar on my face was less pronounced and less angry looking. My normally pale green eyes were glowing red. I had never seen them do that myself, although I had been told a few times that when I was threatened, my eyes had a tendency to shift hues to red. But there was nothing here to threaten me. Perhaps it was something else. I should go find an odd job or something. I had been out of dust for days now, and I would start to get the shakes soon if I did not find any. I was mostly out of mist, had used the last of my fungus last night, and the flowers I had found recently were worthless. I knew I promised Serge, but he would have to understand that this was taking too long. The mine was just a couple hours away, and if he hurried, he should have been back a long time ago. He should have been back a long time ago, even if he did not hurry. He had better pay a full silver, now that I thought about it. He owed me 1 silver. Now that that was settled, I could get started and find some coin or something. There were not a lot of things I owned. One of the few was my robe. It was currently in a heap on the floor, and it stank like a homeless drunk lived in it. Putting it on was always unpleasant, and it took a little while to get used to the smell before I could go about my day. I could have washed it, but when it did not stink, the guards would sometimes try to search me to see if I had any illegal drugs, money, or anything else they could take, knowing I would not protest too much. But when I stank like this, they left me alone. My fingers rummaged through the folds of the robe, hunting more by their own instincts than with any direction from the rest of me. A tiny little pinner of mist found its way between my fingers. It was rolled nice and tight, with a practiced twist at the end, awaiting fire. While my gray skin and horns were the most obvious indications of my demon heritage, they were not the only ones. I was able to use shadows and flame to do little tricks. My magic sparked as it touched my lips, and I took a drag, melting the stress away for just a moment. With that, I finally exited the room. The outside world was bright and annoying, dragging me back to my usual sluggish pace as I felt the sun's glare beating down on me. Fortunately, my emergence seemed to silence the bell, granting me a brief respite from the incessant noise. I trudged across the uneven cobblestones toward the main square, where the bell had been ringing, hoping to find some work or, at the very least, some water from the well.